Welcome to another episode of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. And I'm excited today because I get to make Larry answer a lot of the questions that you have been asking on our channel. We have videos with well over 1 million responses and questions and comments and all those kind of things. And we want to review a few of the ones that are asked the most, so we don't have to write comments for every one of them because that's a lot of responses. So I'm going to corner Larry with some of your questions that you've asked in the comments over the last many years that we've been doing this project, and hopefully we can answer some of those questions, and I can get answers for some of them too. Okay, Larry, I'm not going to put these in any order, but there are about 5 or 7 questions that I'd call them misconceptions that people keep asking. And probably one of the ones we should start out with is, everybody keeps saying the Superstition Mountains don't have any gold in them. They're volcanic. They can't have gold in them.
Well, my response to that is, as I recall putting that to Clay Worst one time. He said 3 of the 4 largest gold mines in the planet are in exactly the same volcanics as the Superstition Mountains. Now,
Okay.
I'd like to show you a picture here that I just took recently. I saw it from somebody else, but we went over there the other day and took this picture of an intrusion of magma into the volcanic tufa, or whatever you call it, the volcanic ash. After the ash was laid down, a new chute of magma come up into it. And it's unique to see this, because this is exactly what happened at Goldfield as the volcanics intruded into the area over there where the Mammoth Mine is. And so these 2 pictures show conclusively that gold can come up from volcanics into a volcanic area. The whole area is volcanic. People try to separate Goldfield from the mountains. Goldfield and the superstitions are one and the same.
Very interesting. So basically, when there's volcanic activity, it shoots veins of lava and all kinds of molten metals up through cracks and veins and faults and all those kind of things, and that's where gold shows up. So in other words, you're saying anywhere there's volcanic activity, there can be gold. So
Absolutely.
Not the other way around.
Yes. Yes.
So volcanic activity is gold activity.
Yes.
Very interesting.
In fact, we got a video you can watch.
It's true, we do. We made one on that. Gold and earthquakes. I remember that video very well. That makes all kinds of sense. Okay, Larry, another question we get asked a lot is, what is the boardhouse and where was the boardhouse?
I think this has been a misleading for a lot of people who are Dutch hunters over the years, because everybody thinks that the boardhouse was at the Quarter Circle U Ranch. And the Quarter Circle U Ranch didn't even exist till 1907. You know, the boardhouse was built in 1875. And we went out there and we done a story on this that we can post here for you to watch,
okay,
proving conclusively that the boardhouse was very much closer to the Daysite Cliffs where the Don's Camp is, almost a mile from the Quarter Circle U. And the importance of that is if you left from the Quarter Circle U, you're going to enter the mountains from a completely different direction than you would if you left from Peralta Canyon. And this is where, when Adolph Ruth started searching for his body, they were leaving from the actual location of the boardhouse. And that story was so big in the media that Dutch hunters, again, become out to the actual boardhouse to go into the mountains. And Barclay had the boardhouse torn down because of that. He didn't want them coming there and leaving from there.
Right.
So now the boardhouse no longer existed, so everybody thinks it's at Quarter Circle U.
Gotcha. I remember Clay talking about how important the boardhouse is, because when the Dutchman was sickly, he was telling Julia that I would go to the boardhouse and tell you which direction to go from there. So that would be the starting point. Why didn't she start there?
Well, that is a true mystery of the Superstition Mountains.
Okay.
Because it was actually Roberts
Oh, Roberts, yes.
He was told at his deathbed, because Julia wasn't there. She was out looking for the doctor about the boardhouse, and he checked it out before he began searching. He went out and verified a woman and 3 children were living in the boardhouse before he actually started doing any searching. But Julia was also told about the boardhouse previous to that, but she went in from where according to her maps, she went in the mountains from where Goldfield is, First Water Road as we know it today. And that's a complete mystery to me, why she ignored the boardhouse clue.
Yeah, that is a mystery. And probably leads us to another one of the questions is, Julia Roberts wasn't even there when the Dutchman died. She didn't get the deathbed confession, did she?
She was out looking for the doctor, and he was delivering a baby, and she was gone for 2 hours. And when they got back, the Dutchman had already died. So she did not get the deathbed confession.
So she really didn't know where she was looking.
That's what her partners claimed.
So, is that why Julie didn't end up with the Dutchman's gold that was under his bed?
Julia Thomas asked them to stay with the Dutchman while she went for the doctor. So Mr. Holmes had Gideon Roberts as a witness that the Dutchman gave him the gold, and she took that to court, and the court sided with Holmes. So he ended up with the gold that was under his bed, and that was sold as jewelry and what have you.
Okay, another outlandish claim that I get questions, cracks me up, is that they say that the Dutchman's not even real, that there was no gold, their Dutchman doesn't exist, it's just a fairy tale.
Jacob Waltz didn't exist, or?
Yeah, the Jacob Waltz and the mine and his gold, it was all just a fairy tale.
Well, that's a lengthy story, but we can post it here for you to watch. It was 2 doctors decided to try to find the real Dutchman, because a false Dutchman, Jacob Waltz, had shown up in some books in the past, and they went on a genealogical research, and they found Jacob Waltz in Germany. And I want to tell you, everything we know about Jacob Waltz from the time he was born until he died in 1891 is as true as north is.
Okay.
Everything after 1891 is highly suspect.
Now, you've held some of the Dutchman's gold in your hand.
Yes, I've seen it several times, yeah.
Okay. So
the matchbox.
Right, so it's real.
It's real. Joe Porter Ree was the assayer for the Vulture Mine, and that's going to be a question that I think is going to come up. And he is also the one that assayed the gold that was under the Dutchman's bed. People that bought it from had to have an assay, and he assayed that gold, and he's the one that said there was absolutely no comparison between the Vulture and the matchbox, none whatsoever. So it did not come from the Vulture mine. In fact, it was tested against all the mines in the Superstition Wilderness area at Goldfield, and it's not similar to any of them. The Dutchman's gold is from a totally unknown source.
Wow. So that you preempted me on one of those questions there. Everybody keeps saying, the gold just came from the Vulture mine, he high-graded it, but we know that from what you just said is completely false.
Absolutely not true.
And Joe Porter, he was the assayer for most of the gold in this Arizona area, so he would know.
That's right. He was the chief assayer for the Vulture, and also the Magna mine and the Black Queen at Goldfield. If anybody knows the difference, he knew.
Okay, Larry, here's a big one. And this is kind of funny to me. It's like, so when the Dutchman's adobe got washed away in Phoenix, and supposedly he had gold on his property, why didn't it not get washed away and they were able to give it away?
Yeah, that came up a lot over the years. You see, he had an adobe building, It wasn't a wood frame building. And when that giant flood took place in 1891, he was a half a mile north of the floodplain. He wasn't in the current of the floodplain. What happened was he had given permission to cut a canal across the southeast corner of his property, and that canal overflowed. And his adobe was in about 18 inches of water, and it just melted. It didn't wash away. You know what water does to adobe.
Yeah.
And all his goods, including the box that had the gold, was taken to Julia Thomas's while he was recovering.
Yeah, and gold's heavy too. It's not like,
yeah, it's heavy.
And frankly, I would see where adobe would just kind of become a pile.
Yeah, with 48 pounds.
It's going to hold things there.
48 and a half pounds of gold ore isn't going to go anywhere in something like that.
Yes. So that makes sense. They were able to recover the gold, put it underneath his bed, so it was there when he passed away, so he could give it to Dick Holmes.
That's right.
Answers that question. Okay, Larry, this one's kind of for me, but I know it's been asked from other people. There are so many false clues about the Lost Dutchman mines. People are just gone crazy making up stuff. But you mentioned in one of our previous stories that the mother of all of those false clues starts with the Sim Zealy book.
Okay, it wasn't so much the clues as just the statements that were made.
Oh, the statements, okay.
The book came out in 1953, and Sims died in 1954, and his son was handling all the back and forth between the editor and not Mr. Sims himself, but the son was handling it. And he was just absolutely discouraged over all the letters flying back and forth that the editor wanted to get this out or add this or what have you. And he finally just got so discouraged, he just gave up and turned it over to the editor. Well, I want to give you an example. If, in fact, the editor edited out 1/3 of the book, I would have loved to have read this stuff. There's got to be some stuff in there that would have been great.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have loved to have read the book before it got edited. But P.C. Bicknell wrote the first story for the San Francisco Chronicle in 1894. And he made the statement, Bicknell made the statement that Jacob Waltz went to Mexico, and I have repeated this story several times, and became friends with the Peraltas, and that Peralta sold him the rights to their mine up there because he was concerned that this gets convoluted, but the Peraltas were concerned that they were going to lose the ability to even work that mine up there because of the Mexican War.
Right.
So anyway, he gave Waltz a map, and he went to Tucson and picked his partner up in Tucson, and they went and found the Lost Dutchman mine. Well, now, keep this business in mind, that he was afraid that the United States was going to take over the territory, and he was no longer going to be able to mine it. But in Sim Zealy's book, he obviously was using P.C. Bicknell's information, but after the editor got through with it, here's the way it came out. Oh, by the way, P.C. Bicknell said he went to Mexico in the first place to avoid military service. Okay, all right. Now, when the editor got through with Sim's book, it came out that he went to Mexico and saved Peralta's life in a bar fight. And when he found out that he and his partner, Mr. Weiser, who was now with him instead of being in Tucson, were Confederate veterans, he gave him a map, and they went up and found the mine, which became the Lost Dutchman gold mine. Now, which of those stories are you going to believe? I mean, it's completely 190-degree opposite. We knew where the Dutchman was from the moment he hit the shores of America until he came to Phoenix until he died in 1990. We knew exactly where he was. I read a whole list of this in the story that I hope we post here so that you can see it yourself, so I don't have to repeat it, but we know exactly where he was.
Right.
And you don't go to Mexico to escape military service from an all-volunteer army.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if that is wrong, how many other things are wrong?
Well, like I said, everything. In 1846, when the war started, 1848 is when Jacob Waltz was trying to get his citizenship in Louisiana. And right at the end of 1848 was when he done this. And in 1849, he's in California with the 49ers. When did he go to Mexico?
Yeah.
And how did Peralta know that they were going to lose the land before the treaty ever happened?
It's great question.
It just nothing fits, and it's just people have treated Sims Ely book as if it's gospel all these years, and it's anything but.
So that just adds a lot of the mysteries we have of the Superstition Mountains.
Just confusion on top of confusion, and so much of this has happened in various books and newspaper stories that it's just, like I said, everything after 1891 is highly suspect. You better do your research before you start.
Larry, one of the things that I find confusing, and that I'm sure our audience has, because I've seen their comments, is you hear about the military trail and this canyon and that canyon. But when the Dutchman around, there wasn't maps, there wasn't proper names of things back then for him to even give Julia or anybody else an idea where to go, was there?
Well, that's the whole point. There are only two things that had a name back in those days, and that was Superstition Mountain itself, that mountain alone, because there's hundreds of mountains out there, and Weaver's Needle. The only two landmarks that had a name. How was he going to tell Julia Thomas to go down West Boulder Canyon, past Blacktop Mesa, and get this and that and another thing? It's why Julia couldn't find anything.
Yeah. She went in from the complete wrong direction.
It went in from the wrong direction.
She couldn't find anything.
Yeah. And it was in a newspaper story that she didn't find anything, yet she was selling maps for $7 with an X on it.
Well, she proved that she couldn't. She didn't know where it was at, but she was selling maps. I always loved that part.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Well, folks, I hope we ended some mysteries for you, and maybe created a few new ones. That's one thing fun about the Superstition Mountains. The storylines and the information never seems to end, and we sure have a great time telling them to you and sharing our experiences. So see you next time on Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.
Thank you for watching this episode of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.